I'm just trying to figure out if you guys can hear me. I'm just trying to figure out how to get my audio and video working. Let me figure this out for you. I'm going to give it just a couple more seconds and then I will get started. Okay, let me make sure no one else is trying to get in and then I'm going to get started. And I'm not sure why. Canada. I'm not sure why it is not just accepting people in automatically. I'm gonna have to learn that. Okay. All right, so I'm gonna hide this or hide everything on the side and I'm just gonna go ahead and get started. Okay, so I'm gonna go ahead and get started now. Welcome to the postmenopausal women and belly fat phenomenon. I hope you can see me and I hope everything is good to go. I'm gonna go ahead and get started. First of all, what is menopause? This video or this picture came up on Google when I just typed in menopause just to see what Google said, and I said, well, this is the funniest picture ever. Ovaries stop producing hormones, and we take a picture of a woman and her reproductive organs. But tonight we're going to talk about what is menopause, what happens during menopause, what happens after, why that belly fat phenomenon, and how do I combat the postmenopausal belly fat. So what is it? It is the cessation of menstruation, which we know that. It is typically happens between ages 45 and 50. But here's something that most people don't know, is that perimenopause actually begins around age 35. And it can be anywhere in between, like a few years in between that. The first change that we notice is lower progesterone, which comes because we have anovulatory cycles, which means no egg is released. So an anovulatory cycle, you may not know that you're having one because you will still have a bleed. Perimenopause can also include heavy bleeding, a thick uterine lining, some major breast tenderness. And I'm not talking like PMS breast tenderness. I'm talking about like that, that first trimester when the breasts just are really tender, the wind blows and it hurts kind of thing. A low progesterone and high estrogen increase during this time is a risk of breast cancer. You'll notice that there are a lot of women in their 30s being diagnosed with breast cancer, and that's because we're realizing that there's this stage in a woman's health where perimenopause comes and there's this out of balance situation where the hormones are not working properly. Postmenopausal women's issues are not typically addressed or commonly helped. It's like, we know about menstrual periods, we know about pregnancy, we know about menopause, but what happens afterwards? We don't talk about that, and it's kind of become a joke. How do you know you have started menopause or started perimenopause? You get some blood work done, preferably with your OBGYN. You may be instated early because you had a surgery to do that. And by hysterectomy surgery, I don't mean just a uterus removed or one ovary removed and your uterus. I'm talking about both ovaries have to be removed in order to start a surgically induced menopause. Again, I highly recommend working alongside your OBGYN and endocrinologist. Now, these two doctors work like this together. Again, I hope you can see me, but these two doctors work like this. They are able to handle your female health, but also the other hormones that go along with it, your diabetes, your cholesterol, or your insulin and your cholesterol and your thyroid and all these other areas of hormones that the two hormones that the OBGYN usually works with, they're all there. Hang on. Okay, thank you. So, I just passed. I just passed. Sorry. Okay, so that is why. We all think about. Again, I do have a network of doctors across the globe right now. That if you don't have a trusted OBGYN or endocrinologist, I can totally help you find one. So what happens during? Here we have estrogen. We always think about, oh, it's the lack of estrogen during this time. And while that's true that that happens, what really starts the cause of all of the menopause issues is progesterone. And it's far more crucial in menopause than we really think. So you have estrogen and progesterone. They're sitting on seesaws. And the best way you know that everything is working well is when these things are in balance, okay? When they're not, you're gonna notice headaches, cystic acne, definitely from the jawline down. You might have a miserable period, sleep disorders, and extreme irritability. I'm not saying like your husband didn't put the socks in the laundry basket irritability. I'm saying like the wind could blow and you're mad. If you have a progesterone dominance, you will notice fat gain, like literal fat gain. You could become moody, have endometriosis issues, uterine bleeding, and possibly cancer. Same with estrogen dominance. There comes infertility, endometrial cancer, malignancy arising in that lining. So again, this is important to keep these two things in play. Remember, progesterone is made in our bodies only one time a month. It is created in the ovaries and at ovulation. Now, like I said, some women don't ovulate and some women have never ovulated but still get a monthly bleed. So when you take the birth control pill or you have a patch or you have some form of contraceptive that still gives you a cycle and a period at the end, if you have something that has a cycle or a period at the end, it may not necessarily be a period, but it is a monthly bleed. And progesterone is needed. Many of us were put on, at least in my generation, many of us were put on birth control right away early on because we were having like acne, we were having terrible cramps and things. And back then, the science didn't match up and say, you know, you need these hormones. Let's figure out what the real issue is underneath. Progesterone is so good. It's a natural diuretic. So the last half of your cycle, of your monthly cycle, you have like this natural water release. Like it's like a natural water pill. You're not carrying extra water from usually day 14 to 16 to the time that you start your next period. It helps to raise your body temperature, which means it boosts your metabolism. It helps you to sleep. It helps your thyroid function properly. It's calming and soothing and sedating. And it really neutralizes stress. So it's kind of just like this calming hormone that just, again, balances out the strong dominance of the estrogen. And without it, we have irritable withdrawal, or we call it PMS, okay? This is the thing that happens when, so like if you think about your PMS, and when you get irritable and like all those symptoms that you have of the low progesterone, that's what's happening in menopause. Menopause is like an extreme exaggeration of PMS. So you're going to have all the obnoxious symptoms that you know during menopause. It is important to really take hold of this season of life and embrace it, because it's going to take a lifestyle change for longevity and functional health and so much more. When we try to fight it and we try to like just like, oh, I just don't know what my body is. It's okay. And you can embrace that, but know that if your body is changing inside, you are going to probably have to change some behaviors and things on the outside as well. Something that's really bothered me in all of the research and the education I've gotten is that no one really addresses after menopause. So menopause is only about 5 to 10 years of your life. So what about the rest? Do we just get old and crunchy and left to die in the nursing home? I mean, really, it is a joke. It's a joke that we are just kind of left to whatever. So what I'm going to do from here on out is I'm going to briefly address the concerns of menopause and postmenopause, and I'm going to hone in on what my scope is, but I'll explain to you what is not my scope and some experiences that you may have, and most women will have. And the first one is obvious: hot flashes. If you have hot flashes starting in perimenopause, it could last up to 10 years, okay? But if you are lucky and you don't experience any kind of hot flashes until your last period, you're likely only going to have a hot flash situation lasting for a couple of years. So that's good. There are some things, and if you have it in your mind like, oh crap, I'm already having hot flashes now, well, you can start knocking off the years and have something to look forward to and mentally be in a place where you can think, okay, this is just a literal season. It's not the rest of my life. Either way, you may need treatment. You may need some treatment for hot flashes. I know some women that have had hot flashes that it's just so bad that they literally cannot finish and do life. It really does impede their life. They get lightheaded and just, it's just a rush of heat that they cannot control. The best thing to do is to talk to your doctor. A lot of times just some magnesium and taurine and some progesterone and maybe some estradiol could help. But again, talk to your doc. That is not specifically not your family doctor. I would talk to an OBGYN, a GYN, or a GYN, Euro GYN, and maybe even your endocrinologist too. But don't go to your family doctor, and don't trust someone without the credentials behind their name. Make sure that they have their credentials. I don't have the credentials behind my name to tell you what to do other than go see your doctor. The next thing, so practicing this with the kids around was really interesting. So the next thing that will happen, and most likely will happen to everybody, is that you'll have vaginal dryness, a reduced libido, and bladder infection. Sounds great, doesn't it? Vaginal atrophy is something that happens as well. And this is when the lining of the vaginal wall becomes thinner because you're not having the extra hormones to help create the lubrication or the I don't even know how to say it, but just to not have it be so tacky or dry, or like I'm assuming like drier skin. So when you have vaginal atrophy, of course you're not going to be aroused. You can't probably orgasm. Intercourse would be painful. Here's what else is a problem. If you didn't know, because the vagina and the urethra are like backed up to one another, you are going to probably have increased risk of bladder infections, urine leaking if you don't leak urine now, and pelvic organ prolapse. So these things are very real, and these are things why you go to your OBGYN or your GYN or GYN urologist to go and make sure that you have had an exam to just constantly check up there and make sure things are going okay. And then the best treatment for that is an actual estradiol. The estradiol is just a cream that you put up your vagina, and it doesn't really affect anything, just down there. It doesn't really affect anything, anywhere else, just down there. Again, this is out of my scope, out of any nutrition coach, anybody else's scope. Talk to your doctor, okay? And not your family doctor, preferably an OBGYN or along those lines. Osteoporosis. So I'm going to hold up here for just a moment. Osteoporosis is huge. And this is where my people that are like late 20s, early 30s, mid 30s, early 40s, this is something that I really want people to hone in on and realize that they can help reduce their risk of osteoporosis by a ton if they would just listen to this. So when you're in your final year of perimenopause, it's in the first 5 years of menopause, you lose up to 10% of your bone density, okay? 10% of your bone density can be lost in that final year of perimenopause and the first 5 years of menopause. 6 years, 10% of your bone density can be gone. You have an absolute risk of getting osteoporosis, according to all the research, and I have my sources at the end of this webinar. If you have celiac disease, if you smoke, you have any alcohol intake, even if you have stopped smoking or stopped drinking, you still have an increased risk or a likely risk of having some osteoporosis. Taking a corticosteroid, antidepressant medication, and a stomach antacid medication. Again, I'm not telling you to stop any of your medicines. If your doctor has prescribed them for you, you need them, and the risks outweigh the benefits outweigh the risks. And there's a thing that there are things you can do to help prevent and to offset this. So don't think that this is oh crap, I'm going to get this because I'm taking these medicines. No, that's not the case. There are ways to combat that, but it also takes your consistent dedication. If you have an eating disorder, so let me say, if you are addicted to food and obese, if you are anorexic or have had anorexia, If you are bulimic or have had bulimia, you are at a higher risk. Amenorrhea, remember amenorrhea is just having cycles without ovulation. A total hysterectomy and any deficiencies in vitamins, vitamin D, zinc, K2, magnesium, and protein deficiency. Again, all of this needs to be discussed with your OBGYN, preferably not your family doctor again, because they are not really equipped to go this in detail and in depth with your overall body health. They are there to help just manage your health, okay? So again, osteoporosis, you can lose up to 10% of your bone density in 6 years, okay? That's a big deal. The way to combat that is functional fitness by lifting heavy weights. Running is not, and you'll see here in a little bit, running is not a great thing for helping to prevent that, and also getting enough protein in is going to help you as well. All right, so here's my scope finally my scope. What happens after menopause? Weight gain. Everybody, it seems like every woman has this situation where they gain this middle belly fat. Estradiol is insulin sensitizing. So we want insulin sensitivity. We don't want insulin insensitivity. We want insulin sensitivity. And that is gone. Like after menopause, all of that is gone. So I want you to look over at this chart on the side. The TDEE, or total daily energy expenditure. This is where our calorie burns come from. Look at that red area, resting metabolic rate. It's about a little over 50% of your body or your calorie burn for the day comes from simply being alive. This goes down with age, especially for women, because we now no longer have periods. We no longer make our own hormones, and we probably are dealing with depression and unmotivation. And then that also means that our NEAT, N-E-A-T, that is your non-exercise activity thermogenics, which means me sitting here talking with my hands, means me dancing and embarrassing the kid when he comes in the kitchen and I want to embarrass him, or it is just laughing, like just gut belly laughing because you're in a good place. It is, oh, it's really nice outside, I'm gonna go take a walk. It is all of those things. It's going up the stairs, it's tapping your fingers, it's jiggling your leg. All of that is NEAT activity, and that all goes down when you are postmenopausal. Why we gain belly fat postmenopausal is because our caloric consumption, so the amount of food that we eat, is not adjusted for the decreased energy that we're actually spending. So basically all that means is we're still eating like we were when we were in our 30s, in our 20s, or whatever, and we are not grasping this lifestyle or this lifetime and this life change and actually living in the current season we're in. So the biggest takeaway is you need to eat for your current needs. Another thing that happens, so let's just say you're eating in your caloric, you're actually eating the right calories. Another thing that happens is bloating or water retention. How do we know if it's water retention or bloating? When we have, let's just say we're at 200 pounds just for ease, because we all know I can't do math that well. So let's just say we're at 200 pounds. Tomorrow I get on the scale, it's 201. The next day, 202. Next day, 198. That is water weight. That's water retention going on, because I might go up again, okay? If I stay right here in the middle, that's water weight. Now, if I see the scale start at 200, 201, 205, 207, 210, 207, 205, I'm actually gaining weight because the trend is constantly going up. If my goal is to maintain, I should be in the middle and steady. If my goal is to lose, I should be 200, maybe 201, go down to 199, and so forth. And just kind of stay on this trend going down. Learn how to use your scale and learn what it means. So you could have water retention, and that is a thing that actually happens. The next thing is cortisol. Now, this is our stress hormone. Many of us know this. I don't know if anybody watches late night TV, but there was like this blue, I remember it was like a blue background, and there was a white caricature of a man with a big American belly on it. And they like kept talking about how that belly is so bad, it's cortisol is causing that. Well, it could have, but cortisol has a bad reputation. We need cortisol. Cortisol helps us control our blood sugar. It helps regulate our metabolism. It helps reduce inflammation. It assists with our memory. It also helps control our blood pressure. So it is a huge survival hormone. It's a crucial hormone to our lives. The issue that comes with cortisol is when it is chronically elevated. And this can result in your metabolic disaster. Here are some examples of what chronically elevated cortisol looks like. Weight gain, especially around the stomach. Now, this, remember, weight gain only if you're eating within your caloric restriction, because otherwise that'd be eating too much. But if you are gaining weight, eating the right amount of calories for your body and so forth, and you start having weight gain, you have a puffy, flushed face, like after you just got done working out, like that is like starting to continue to be consistent. Muscle aches, if you start getting acne in the T-zone and under here, if you have poor sleep and so forth, like all of these are symptoms of elevated cortisol and stress in your life. Now, all that I just talked about, like your sleep suffers, your energy is down, you just kind of feel blah when your cortisol has been elevated for a long time. But as Americans, most of us don't know that we're really stressed until it's way too late. So cortisol controls stress is both good and bad. Now, prolonged dieting, if you're eating less calories and constantly dieting, wanting to lose weight, that is a stress, and it could be a good stress. Increased activity, if you're trying to lose weight, of course you're going to go or get in shape. Of course you're going to increase your physical activity, and that's also a good stress, but it's a stress. If you're doing a lot of cardio, like if you're trying to run a marathon or things like that, that is going to increase your stress and your cortisol. If you're having a relationship or work or family stress or anxiety, that's stress, probably not always good. Job promotion, demotion, marriage issues, struggling, sickness in the house. I mean, that's a common theme right now. All of that, which is normal life, is stress period, and your body responds to stress, good and bad, the same. That's why you'll see me posting all the time, like you should not work out every single day, all these things, but positive and negative stress affects our cortisol exactly the same, okay? All right, so the belly fat phenomenon going on. Here are a couple other things. A lot of women post-menopause and even during menopause are consistently overeating because of they're not burning as many calories throughout the day. And when you're consistently overeating and you're tired and everything else, you're going to have low motivation. You're going to start feeling you want a hit of energy. Coffee's not doing it anymore. So you start to increase your sugar consumption. The next thing that is really marketed to women is alcohol, wine, and sugared cream coffee drinks, smoothies, and all that. It's very stylish and it's marketed so well to this population. So all of these kinds of things, an increase in any of this stuff is going to cause you to gain weight. So again, understanding and embracing this time in life is so important. The next thing is your microbiome. The belly fat phenomenon comes because of an unbalanced microbiome. All that means is gut health. It's just a fancy word for gut health. It is much more than probiotics and prebiotics. Probiotics, we hear about it. It's in yogurt and it's in, on the store shelves and things. Prebiotics are simply fiber. It's simply just eating your vegetables, simply eating some grains to get some things moving. That's what prebiotics are. The microbiome affects your motivation, your energy, your dopamine, your inflammation. All of that can be found in your gut health, okay? Okay, all this is just fancy. I just want you to look at this little chart on the side. All this is just fancy to say that dopamine is our pleasure reward. So it's the place in our mind, in our brains, where we go to get pleasure. It's also the place of our perception of reality. So when you want a dopamine rush, you can go for a jog and get a dopamine rush. If you don't have all three of these hormones working together, you're not going to be motivated to actually make wise decisions. And you already have the hormones working against you. You have your body working against you. It is important to continue to focus on, again, and embrace this time in life where you know, hey, my stuff's changing. I need to really focus. I know I don't feel like doing something right now, but I know that I know that I know that I know that getting up and cooking my own food, that getting up and eating vegetables, being an adult and eating vegetables, that making sure I have enough of the right calories and the right portions of everything, that I get out and move my body, all of that is worth it, even if my body says no. Okay, so that's all that jazz right there is just saying that. This is so when you don't feel like doing something and you have no motivation, that's called effort discounting. So like, I'm just gonna sit and watch Dancing with the Stars because I just don't feel like getting up. Well, it's true, it's real. It's this thing that your body is like dealing with some inflammation and it's like all of this stuff. But we need to really, really focus on the mindset during postmenopause and menopause, that, you know, nothing's thought out. I'm just so hungry. I'm just going to call in pizza for everybody. That way everyone's fed and I can just go relax. I deserve this. Like I was so stressed this week. I deserve this glass of wine or this cup of coffee with tons of sugar and stuff in it. Like this whole idea of deserving, or, you know, all of this stuff, or I was really good this week. I'm only going to have, you know, 3 slices of pizza, or those kinds of things. That is all about this mental aspect, and it starts in the gut. All right. So this is the motivation cycle. If you've had a long night out, or if you had a night out with eating lots of inflammatory foods, you're going to have these inflammatory cytokines activate, and essentially you're just not going to do anything. You're just going to sit and Netflix and chill, and you're going to still feel worse. All right, so because of the mental state, I need to define anxiety and depression. Anxiety is just the fear of the future, and depression is a sense of hopelessness. If we are experiencing in postmenopause or any time in our life these feelings, we know that we're going to have a high gut inflammation. So if you're having seasonal depression even, or if you're having something like that, it's very, very important to focus on your gut health and making sure that that's taken care of. So you remember that you're not playing games with your mind anymore, that your mind knows, hey, this is what's going to happen. Like, I need to go do these things and make wise decisions, even if it sucks right now. An example of an anti-inflammatory meal, I chose something as an example, or I chose this as an example because A, it's pasta, and B, we think that we can't have carbs when we are getting older. And there's this movement of people not eating carbs and thinking that they're not healthy, and that's completely completely wrong. If you look over here on the left, it says it's 434 calories per serving, and the serving size is pretty decent. But the anti-inflammatory meal template is simply your omegas, your like oregano, peppers, onions, garlic, turmeric, tomato, and I'm trying to think of something else off the top of my head. But those things can all be eaten well and healthy and can actually help you thrive. Carbs are not off limits because most of the anti-inflammatory foods are carbohydrates or have carbohydrates in them. I'll let you just look at this list, but in the middle, starting with the extra virgin olive oil down to dark chocolate, those are anti-inflammatory foods. High inflammatory foods are on the side. Don't think of these as foods to avoid. I don't ever want anyone to think that they have to avoid foods. But what I want them to think about is, okay, if you're a chip lover and you love your Cape Cod kettle chips, that these chips can be eaten in a well-balanced diet. Working with me, I teach you how to sandwich those things in so that you're not starting your day with chips or ending your day with chips, and that you haven't had enough of the anti-inflammatory foods to help combat that. So again, biscuits, rolls, bacon. I love me some jerky. I'm not gonna lie, I love me some jerky, and I'm gonna eat jerky, but I'm gonna make sure that I have prepared my day and sandwiched it in there somewhere, my anti-inflammatory foods somewhere. So again, I'm going to talk about this, but should you go low carb or keto? Because I'm asking you to just, watch your sugar intake. No, quitting sugar is completely different than low carb. And I'm not saying to quit sugar. I'm just saying to quit the wine. I'm saying to quit the excessive wine. Once a week is reasonable. Quit the smoothies, the coffee drinks that with all the sugar in it. Now, if you want to use some people have, it feels like it's a moral thing against sugar-free stuff. I love sugar-free stuff. put that bad boy in your coffee instead. Just make some swaps. But going low carb is not going to fix anything. You do need to allow yourself some starch to help reduce your cravings. Inflammatory foods cause cravings, so just make that aware. An example meal template looks like this. Essentially, every meal have 1 to 2 servings of lean protein and non-starchy vegetables. Dinner, have a starchy vegetable. Snack, lots of different things you can have, but make sure you're looking for low fat, no fat, and actual natural sugars. Combating this, don't make the mistake of reducing starches, but continuing to eat sugar. Eating something in the name of paleo or health term dessert that just defeats the whole purpose. Working with a certified nutrition counselor like me, learning how to eat for your needs and your wants without destroying your body is vital. And the mental game, that's what I do. There's no supplement, no fat burner or drink you can take to fix this problem or to just like prolong it or to combat long term. It takes actually walking side by side with someone. You're going to want to learn to sleep. This is how I coach. I coach you on your sleep. I coach you on your caloric deficit to lose your body or belly fat and then your maintenance calories. I teach you what kind of exercise is important and actually going to work. Water is important. Eating properly distributed macronutrients for this phase of your life. Limit your dinner alcohol, sugared afternoon drinks, fruit smoothies, and go for a walk instead. In order to preserve the fountain of youth, good nutrition, regular activity, adequate sleep, good stress management techniques, strong social support network, regular checkups with your physicians, and positive and grateful outlook and attitude are vital. And this honestly is what, again, I teach you all of these things when you work with me. If you want to contact me or you have any questions or concerns, feel free to reach out. I think most of you already have my phone number. And my email, you can do that. And then there are my sources for tonight. Does anyone have any questions? Where do I go? Does anyone have any questions? I don't know what I'm supposed to do. I don't know how to unshare my screen. Does anyone have any questions or concerns about this that I can add in, answer for you? I seriously don't know how to like get rid of my screen. Any questions, anything? All right, well, thank you so much for joining in tonight, and I will talk to you all soon.